Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ariana, and over here, it's my turn this time. Over here, would you like to introduce yourself, Alan?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Alan. I am a poet, visual artist. I go as MigrantScribble on the internet, and I'll be facilitating today's workshop.
Which we are looking forward to very much. Shout out to everybody joining us wherever you are in the world. If you could drop a greeting in the YouTube live chat and let us know where you're tuning in from, and if this is your first workshop or if you've been with us for a few times already, we would love to know what your experience has been so far. So just let us know where you're tuning in from and what workshop number this is for you. Today, Alan is going to be leading us in a workshop on reclaiming our rights, which I'm personally very excited about. But before we get into all of that good stuff, just make sure you have something to write with, as usual. The link to follow along in the Google Doc for today's workshop is in the description box right below the video. And if this workshop has been helpful for you, please feel free. This workshop series is not funded by anyone or anything. So we are accepting donations on our Venmos and CashApp, where you can find us at our handles on the internet, ArianaThePoet and at MigrantScribble, if you feel so moved. Other than that, I can't think of anything else that we need before we're getting started. What about you, Alan?
Same here. I think we might be ready. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. So I guess I'll just give a little bit of background on today's workshop. This is one of my favorite. I have rarely done it on the internet because the way that it works is that I have flashcards, about like 60 of them, and I always make the flashcards the day of the workshop, and whatever is on my mind is kind of pouring into the flashcards. But this workshop is a reclamation of our rights, and the reason why I developed this workshop was because as many of you will know, I was undocumented most of my life, and being undocumented, I thought that I had no rights, and I continued to move through the world as if all I was my status. And being undocumented is not an identity. It is something that one temporarily is. I can always go back to my country and not be undocumented anymore. At any moment, the law can change and I will no longer be undocumented. So this workshop was really about how can I see myself as other than undocumented? What are the rights that I do have that I can claim for myself? And what are the rights that the law can never take away from me? And this workshop for today is informed by Rodriguez de Lorbe, Periódicos de Ayer. If you are on the Google Doc, there will be a link where you can follow D'Angeli on Instagram, and also a link to Scoop Periódicos de Ayer is self-published. It is currently out of stock, but I know that D'Angeli is working on a new batch. And D'Angeli is a formerly undocumented Black poet from the Dominican Republic. And the reason why I adore this chapbook is because D'Angeli makes time to love unapologetically, regardless of immigration status. Immigration rarely comes up in the chapbook, and her commitment to pleasure while living as Black and undocumented is something that I really admire and look up to, regardless of what the law says or how the world treats one because of race and immigration status. To be like, fuck all of you, I'm gonna have pleasure and I'm gonna demand it every single day as often as I want it, is one of the, for me, one of the examples of resistance that I have been in awe. And I'm going to talk a little bit at the beginning because there's so much context to this workshop. one of the earliest memories I have of the US is me asking my mother why she was dating somebody that was also undocumented, and me being like, you need to date someone that's a citizen so we can all get papers. And I just remember my mom telling me, one day you'll understand. And now I understand why she was dating other undocumented people. And this chapter kind of like brings it all back together, how in the midst of illegality we can still pick ourselves and each other, and that's something that both Angeli and my mother have taught me. So this workshop is about that, and I'm going to start by reading some poems from Angeli's work, and then we'll get into ghost lines. The first poem I'm reading is, I guess, maybe the fourth poem in the chapter, and it's titled, I Am Waiting on a Lover. I am waiting on a lover, maybe a Dominican one, who won't ask why I'm more fluent in politics than Mama's recipes, who knows better than to call himself Spanish or Hispanic, a soft man of color who will burn this city down if liberation asks, who won't disgrace my name by making it digestible for an English tongue, a hardworking man with calloused sugar canes for hands, loving with his ma in his eyes and his sister in his smile, a strong man who knows how unstable I will be on days I witness another deportation, stumble across another hashtag. Perhaps he'll be a black man who won't say dumb shit like, you ain't like these other black girls. Beautiful with kind words and honorable actions, without gravestones for stepping stones from all the women he has destroyed. A man with hundreds of stories to tell over Morí Soñando con Pan dates and my living room carpet. I'm waiting on a lover drenched in resilience, patience, effort, justice, a giving man who won't use my body just to please himself, consistent and transparent, who won't run when he finds some scabs are not yet healed. An understanding man who believes in my growth as much as I do. I am not patient for much, but I am patient for love. I did not bloom into a garden to give in to a man of weeds. I know exactly what I want, and most of these men are merely seeds. So that is I Am Waiting for a Lover. And I'm going to read, instead of saying no, I mean, sorry, instead of saying, if instead of saying go, live. Okay. I said, stay with me here. What would I be but a cage? And if instead of watering your dreams, I left them out under my fears, what would I be but a drought? Sin cosecha, nada for us to grow on. And I want us to grow and glow sin temor ni incertidumbre, a constellation for your voyage, one that always leads you back here, junto a mí. Que los santos te cuiden, eres una abundancia de libertad. When the car door closes behind her, she does not dare to look. She tightens her fist, as if to keep her feelings from spilling out of them. He turns the ignition, and her spirit weeps. As a child, she used to capture lizards in her grandmother's backyard. She would pull them by the tail, caress their tiny heads, and watch them struggle to escape her grasp. She prayed that one day they would change their mind and choose to remain between her palms forever. But eventually, she was forced to let go and let nature run its course. She is tempted to ask him to stay, to forget all she said, but any attempt to anchor him would only delay his flight. He was leaving whether he stayed until morning or until next week. That's the thing about destiny. No matter how we intervene, it remains itself, written and unwritten, written and unwavering. When she finally finds the courage to turn, there is no trace of the car or him. There wouldn't be for a long time. And now there's this poem that there's two poems. They're written on the same page, side by side. I'm not sure how they're supposed to be read, so I'll read one column first and then the next column. So the first one is titled "On Heartache for My Sister." You write more, work more, read more, wake up at 5 a.m., lift weights, stay out longer, whine your waist until your thighs ache. Your bedroom asks who has made a stranger out of you. Your journal catches dust. The poems sting too much to go back to. You become a distant memory, erasing the person you were and rewriting yourself every day. You open up again and excavate their mouth for flaws. Rarely call back. Roll your eyes at good morning texts. Ache, weep, thirst after their presence and starve for your own. Lead someone on, but never long enough. You write new poems and despise them. Scratch them, scrap them, burn them, sink into yourself for days. Sometimes you feel like you will never come back up. I'm healing from my sister. Until you do, you breathe and continue to carry on. You won't know why or how, but one day you pick up the shovel and dig. You find only dirt where you once saw gold. You will pull at the roots of their love or lack thereof until healing evaporates their fingerprints from your skin. And when their trace disappears, so does the aching. You will be able to welcome someone's hand on your neck without feeling like you might have your heart out of your chest. Your laugh will visit more often, no longer trapped in a chamber of nostalgia. The mirror will at last introduce you to a stronger you, a wiser you. And that is it. There you are on the other side of hurt, like all the women around you, in you, and before you. How do you know you learned the lesson? Someone else offers you what they did, and you finally recognize it as something other than love. And I will read the last poem, and it's titled Check In. When was the last time you were both pronouns in I love you? So that
Oh, you're on mute, Alan.
Ariana, any thoughts?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting the last poem to just be one line. Um, I really enjoyed that. It also made me think about the I think what was the last line of the poem you read right before that. There was like when you finally recognize it as something other than love. I really appreciated the phrasing of that. That like some things that people experience in relationships with other people are not actually love. Um, yeah, and it for me felt like a marking of that realization of that epiphany moment as something that then allows healing to occur, I thought was really important. Um, yeah, because even in like an exploration of love, right, when people are looking for love or trying to find love, you often encounter a lot of things that are not love. um, and yeah, how you journey through that sort of becomes your journey to arriving at love. So I really appreciated exploring the relationships with love in all these different ways.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely think that misrecognizing things as love, right, is something that might be a shared feeling amongst people, particularly when we're young, or just not just like romantic love, but love for place, right? Love for, yeah. So I'm just, every time I read this chapbook, I get really excited because I find out new things. And one thing that I didn't show you is the every page. So if you do end up scooping this, it's kind of like a multimedia text as well. It's really gorgeous. Yeah. Okay. So what we're gonna do now is I pulled a few lines from the chapbook, and we're gonna be writing in response to those lines. So I'm going to be sharing my screen, and I'll be showing you the Google Doc. And also you can access the Google Doc in the link on the YouTube description. So I am sharing, oh, I think I'm actually sharing the wrong one. Yeah, give me 1 second. Mhm. Okay, perfect. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ghost lines. So I'm gonna play music. The way that this workshop is gonna work is we're gonna write for 12 minutes, and after 12 minutes, you're going to select one of the ghost lines that you wrote in response to, and that will become the introduction to your reclamation of your rights. And then I'll show you a list of all the rights that I want you to reclaim, or just that I want you to think about as you're thinking about your own lived experience. So the first ghost line is, I am not patient for much, but I am patient for, and I want you to fill it in and just write.
Hey everyone. It looks like Alan is having some connectivity issues. We're still here. We're going to move on to the next ghost line, which on the Google Doc is you don't know why or how, but one day. So go ahead and fill in the blank for the rest of that line and continue writing. We're gonna get Alan back in here.
Did you introduce the next ghost line? And now we're gonna go to the next ghost line. When you say no, I Okay, and now for the last ghost line. How do you know you learned the lesson? Okay. So that concludes the ghost line portion of the workshop. We're going to be using these ghost lines in the next section. But for now, Ariana, how are those 4 ghost lines for you? What came up?
I actually had a really hard time writing today. I don't know if it's just like where I'm at mentally or what. I think, um, yeah, I was finally able to write something to the very last ghost line. How do you know you learned the lesson? I think, what you call? I don't know. I think sometimes we talk sometimes a little bit about how sometimes folks have a tendency to edit themselves as they're writing, and I feel like a little bit of that was happening for me too. I was like, what is the way that I'm trying to say the thing? So I finally figured it out for for the last ghost line. I was like, okay, if I answer the question in like sentence fragments that all begin with like the word to, then I got it. I got it. I just had to get into that rhythm. It was a little slow for me today. Um, But I was thinking about, for the last ghost line, how do you know you learned the lesson? I was thinking about, I feel like when you are in the middle of experiencing a lot of things that are not love, um, right? Because like often, you'll make mistakes, right, on the way to finding love that is right for you, that is what you're supposed to be encountering at that time. Um, in the process of making those mistakes, you are presented with similar kinds of situations. And how do I know when I've learned a lesson on like how to deal with that situation, is when I respond to it differently. So I was thinking about different moments that like where a similar thing was happening to me, a similar kind of situation was being presented to me. And then I had a choice of, okay, how do I want to respond to this? So I know I learned the lesson when it's like easy for me to put a boundary and to keep my anger instead of like trying to diffuse it immediately. So that's what I got.
Thank you. I so appreciate hearing you say it was hard for me to write. Right? Because I think that the assumption is that writers can write on demand at any moment. Um, and yeah, while we might be able to write for workshops, it's hard. And I also see some of the comments. Kay said, yeah, I feel that hard time writing, but some started flowing on the first and last one. Infinitely Finite 68 said, all of them felt rough. My work felt subpar. And Ilu, I think, I can relate. The first two workshops were really hard for me to get a flow going. And Panther the Moon, also struggling to write today. Ooh. Oh, and then I didn't finish all the ghost lines, but I felt the inner voice speak up for a few of them. Yeah, right. So there are days where writing is going to be difficult. But I think that's something like what Ariana and I have been doing, of the commitment for an hour and a half, right? Maybe if all we get down is one line, we committed that hour and a half, and the writing that came out, and it was that one line. And sometimes poems can be one line, and Danjeli teaches us that. So thank you, everybody who is kind of like working through either writer's block or writing in a moment where maybe just words aren't enough to fully grasp what you're doing. Christina says, I was definitely starting to edit myself, but also pushed through and got thoughts for all lines. But I was in my head more than past weeks for sure. Yeah, being in our heads is a writer's reality. It's not new at all. So thank you everybody for sharing. We're not bringing people on for this portion yet, because this portion is directly tied to the next portion. And what I ask that you do is, I ask that you look at the 4 ghost lines and what you wrote, and just select one of them, but don't think too much about it. Just maybe circle it if you're writing on hand, or highlight it if you're writing on a computer, or wherever you're writing. Just know that you want to use that, because the next section of the workshop is, I want you to look at this sheet. I'm gonna share it in one sec. So I want you to look at this list of rights that I'm about to project. And I want you to figure out how you're going to reclaim the following rights in your day-to-day life. So the right to leave, the right to say no, the right to move, the right to be held, the right to health care, the right to fuck, the right to not care, the right to love. I think that sometimes, at least for me as a minoritized person, on the basis of many, different things, I feel like I don't have the right to a lot of the actions listed on this sheet. And I really want us to push through, what if we put as much of importance on these rights as we do to other legal rights, right? We never think about the right to laugh as a legal right, but it is, because we're always being policed to not laugh. We're being policed by the outside world and by each other because we need to be radical and woke and in the moment, right? So it's the right to laugh is as important as the right to open borders. And because we can never contextualize our daily rights as like legal rights, we sometimes fail to address them. So, for example, the right to not trust, right? Sometimes there's shame or guilt in not trusting, and we feel like we have to. So, how do we reclaim that trust? Because both the law and society are going to fail, but we can trust our gut. We can trust what we know. We can also question what we don't know, right? So, for the next 15 minutes, I want you to just kind of put your answer or your writing to one of the ghost lines on top, and that will be your introduction to your reclamation of rights. And then underneath, I want you to, for 15 minutes, spend 15 minutes reclaiming whatever rights on this page you think are the most necessary at the place you are in your life right now. That might be 2 rights, it might be 5 rights, however many of them you need. And let me just make it a little bit smaller so that the writing on top of the writing doesn't interfere with the last column. Give me one sec. I feel like that's too small. Wait. Oh, the writing still interferes. Oops. Oh, I guess this is small. Is that too small? Oh, yeah. Okay, we'll just have a regular size. Okay, so I'm going to give you 15 minutes. And one tip, if you're having a hard time writing, I did put the tip on the Google Doc. And the tip is to start every line with, I reclaim my right to, and then insert the right, and then write. Why are you reclaiming that right? How are you going to reclaim that right? And who or what is responsible for making that right inaccessible to you? And that's all right here on the banner projected. So if you're having a hard time writing, every single line will start with, I reclaim the right to, and then insert it. You do not have to follow the rights on this. If there is anything else that's not on here that you want to reclaim, please do so. So, for example, one thing that is not on here that I would like to reclaim personally is the right to know all my family, because I was displaced at a young age. I don't know most of my family members. So take this as the starting, but definitely reclaim the rights that you want for yourself. So I'll give you 15 minutes, and then we will come back and have a community dialogue. All right.
completamente apaixonada. Completamente apaixonada. E tá tão bom. É tanta coisa, lógico. Quero muito conversar com você quando você.
Hi, friends. So the 15 minutes of writing are up. And I ask that you put your pens down or your phones away, or not away, but stop typing. Yeah, this is a heavy prompt. I do want to say that I wrote a reclamation on my rights once and published it, and it was the essay that took the longest editorial because it was just so intense. Me and my editor kept going back and forth for many drafts until it was out. But yeah, can I get some thoughts from you, Ariana? Oh, but before I get thoughts from you, this is a moment where we're going to invite people to come in and share their work. So while Ariana and I chat, please follow, go to our Instagram, and if you want to come in and read and talk with us, send us a DM, and we will send you a link to join our live. But Ariana, how was that exercise for you?
It was kind of terrifying. Yeah, I think it was really difficult. At first, I was still kind of struggling because I felt like I was kind of off today when I came into the workshop. But then once I thought about what I was going to actually write about, I was like, oh, this is really sad, actually. I think I feel like was feeling a lot of things. And I think one of the main things I was feeling, in addition to sadness, was anger. Like anger that like this had to be a right to be reclaimed in the first place. And yeah, someone just said that Kai just said that so much came up on body and blackness for me. And I was feeling a similar thing in responding to this prompt. I was like a lot of the reasons why the particular right that I chose to write about was denied to me was because of blackness, denied to me and some of my family members was because of blackness. And so that was, I think, just difficult to move through and try to give language to. Once I started writing, though, I didn't stop. So there's that. It felt helpful, I think, but it also, I think, was hard. Yeah.
Thank you. Right, like it's fucked up that we have to reclaim these rights. This is by no means a workshop that is just by coincidence, right? It's a workshop that's responding to global systems of violence. Yeah, and anger at that at things which should not have to be reclaimed at all. Right, exactly. And I'm also wondering, what are things you do, Ariana, when you feel angry that you have to write a poem? Like, yeah.
Cry. I feel like that was the yeah, usually cry. And I think in responding to this prompt, I wrote about that I reclaim my right to an unconditional love. And I was thinking not just from like, romantic relationships, but also from like family. And yeah, and I think one of the things that came up in my poem was that often the only kinds of people that provide unconditional love to Black women are other Black women. And so I was thinking about how Black women are such a source, like I like to refer to us as the well and source. But also like that's not enough for people to always live livable lives when we are living at many intersections and, like you said, a global system of violence. And so I was thinking about how powerful love from other Black women is, and also how it's not enough to counter that violence always. And so it helps us move through sometimes moments of violence, but it doesn't always help us. It doesn't always prevent us from like not surviving. And so yeah, I was feeling sort of that tension. So when you asked what do I do in those moments of anger, I think usually I think about the power of the things that keep us going, that keep us alive. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Oh gosh, I think you also identify the not enough, right? What if everything we know to take care of ourselves is not enough? Yeah, and I also think about Angeli's question, like, how do you know you have learned the lesson? How do we know when we are protected? How do we know when we are not going to be betrayed? Thank you so much for sharing that. And I also want to highlight some of the things that have been coming in. Natalie wrote, I cried and felt angry that my boundaries have been crossed so often that I hurt to set them. Wow. So yeah, also this prompt as a way of setting boundaries, right? Cecilia wrote, the right to be messy, to be human, right? Daisy, for me, it was easier to identify which right I wanted to reclaim, but difficult to name what held that right for me. That's the intimate way in which violence works. It's happening, but sometimes we're not sure from where. Resentment also came up. Confusion, was I reclaiming these rights? I didn't get to talk about who denied them from me. Right, so I think I'm seeing like kind of a pattern. What Alan said about having the right to laugh as much as we had the right to open borders really fucked with my mind. So I ended up writing a love poem. Oh, thank you for writing a love poem. Okay, so I'm seeing this. Two people mentioned that they had a difficult time figuring out who was denying it. For all of you in this workshop, in 2 weeks, I'm going to do a workshop on poems for the future, where we're able to imagine a future where none of these rights have to be reclaimed because we're already living in a world where all of these exists. And it's kind of a continuation of this workshop. So please come back in 2 weeks because we'll address exactly that. I wrote about the right to ask questions and was thinking about how that's related to being silenced, which we explored previously. Right, that came up for me because I wrote the right to communication because I felt that I was never communicated with. I was just told what to do and how to move in the world. And I think communication and silence go hand in hand. Okay, thank you so much. Ariana, I'm wondering if anybody has asked to join the live to share their piece.
And I'm talking with someone right now, so hopefully we'll bring someone on in a moment. But anyone, if you would like to share what you wrote just now to the prompt, please send us a DM on Instagram at Write With Us Live, and I will be responding to you shortly.
Thank you, Ariana. Writing about losing myself in my relationships and not being able to name because there are various sources that form the loss of autonomy. Right. So also what happens when not just one person or one institution is taking away your right, but multiple people? That's also difficult. But the first step is to name. And then like when we name, we're also denouncing, right? And in order to denounce, we sit in that messiness because sometimes we also don't let people, for example, like reclaim that same right for themselves. So what is also our participation in endorsing that framework? Oh my gosh, thank you for your reflections. I highly encourage all of you to save that Google Doc and kind of play with the list of rights after this workshop.
Oh, we have someone on the stream with us.
Hi.
Hi. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Kai. My pronouns are they and he. I'm in San Antonio, Texas.
No way. Is it really hot? I haven't been back home since the pandemic started. Do you have AC?
Oh, yes, I have AC, luckily. It is very, very, very hot, honestly. It's bothering me. I have to be inside like all the time. But yeah. Yeah, I'm Kai. This is so awkward. This is so weird. I want to say hi really quick to Aliza and Yaneth if they're watching. And yeah, I think a lot. I typed in the chat that yeah, a lot came up for me about like Blackness and about my body, but not only like my body, but you know, just like Black, you know, Black bodies in general. And so yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and read it. Okay. You don't know why or how, but one day they'll burn this city to the ground. Led by thems and thems, this land will be ours again. We reclaim our rights to this land, and with that, reclaiming seeds, and with that, reclaiming growth. Not the land, not the kind you see on a X and Y axis, Wall Street bullshit, but the kind of growth that that takes heart and stamina, growth that breaks the skin and stings to the touch. This is my and my ancestors' blood, and we reclaim that too. This Black body is not yours to keep. I reclaim all the gates and glass ceilings that have kept me from the sun. Our bodies desire to be touched by one another. Sun-kissed, I reclaim my hands, not to be used for the white man's work, but to caress my own body. I reclaim this earth too.
Thank you for sharing that with us. I mean, I'm definitely like, your comment makes so much sense right now as I'm listening to your poem and this idea of we can just reclaim our bodies, but you're reclaiming every individual part is so impactful because the body parts that you're naming, they have like a historical memory in the land that you're also reclaiming. So it's kind of like that negotiation of, okay, so I'm here, but there's also like a history, right, of like what has happened here. You're touching multiple textures of life and also multiple textures of time. So it's like you're traveling back and to the present into the future, which is really beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, I also really appreciated you talking about like other Black people, other Black people's bodies that you're in relation with. Like you had a line that was something like about like my ancestors, and we reclaim that too. That I really appreciated, right? Because we don't exist without our ancestors, and the histories that you're speaking about that Alan was pointing to are also tied to the histories of other Black people who have moved through the same spaces as us. So you can't reclaim a relationship to the land or the history or the body without also talking about who came before you. So I thought that was really important too. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to share also that I grew some okra from seed, and so I was really just thinking about the okra that like me and my ancestors grew, and so I was just like feeling that as well. But thank you for having me.
Yeah, that was so powerful. Thank you, guys.
Oh my gosh. And thank you for growing okra.
Yes. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Wow.
Oh wow, that was wonderful. I'm not crying. You're crying. We have another person that would like to join, so I'm gonna see about bringing them in.
I'm shocked with how much comes up in such little time. Like 15 minutes?
Always. Yeah, I'm always like, how do people write so much? How do people write so coherently? Like with all the metaphors and figurative language, it's wild. Look, Royal's growing okra too. I love that. I love that everybody's growing okra right now. Okay, we're just waiting on one more person. Just so y'all know, next week's workshop is going to be another set of guided free writes that I'll be leading. So I know a lot of people really liked the last guided free writes one, so it's not so much centered on a theme, but we'll as usual read some poems and then do a series of ghost lines that are kind of structured in a particular way, just to get people in the process of writing. And I know for a lot of people like myself today during the writing prompt felt like it was a little bit hard to get started. So I'll try my best to have maybe some lead up exercises so that we can get in the flow of it. I feel like I don't know. I don't know about y'all, but I'm right now I'm feeling like the fatigue of the pandemic and everything happening in the news. And so I feel like it was hard for me to move past that block when sitting down to write today. I wonder if other people felt that way as well.
I definitely felt that way, Ariana. And I think I may have told you this, but Periódicos de Ayer is the only thing I've been able to read since the pandemic started. So, you know, it's real.
Right today. I wonder if other people felt that way. Hi.
Hello. Okay.
How are you? Do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm a NATO. I use they them pronouns, and it's been a while since I've wrote, so I figured that I would write a little bit and then share to see kind of I don't know, just like you know how like sometimes I'm the sort of person who can't just inch into something. I have to like go in the deep end.
Yeah, I think I definitely feel that. But we are definitely here for whatever you want to share whenever you're ready.
Okay. So I'll start. How do you know you learned a lesson? My reflection no longer preaches to me. I no longer use every mirror to scribe for my flaws. Good memories return from exile, cleansed of nostalgia's touch. Books on time travel, dust covered, rest on shelves with self snuffed candles. No more prayers or promises, no more curses or cajoling. Justice is mine. Vengeance, I bid you farewell, my devoted bedside attendant, with whom I wept as a discarded thing, when no one would hear my cry, and I was a mere stepping stone on their path to innocence. You, my calcifer, burned within my chest, branding my insides with that mark they call resilience, burning my spirit for power to keep moving, the autophagy of my persistence. Scarred flesh, it is time to heal. Yield to the fresh air flowing into the lungs. Stretch and curve. You are no longer a wretched machine. And that's it.
Wow, I really love that you started with lines about like your relationship to the mirror, because I feel like that is such, I don't know, I feel like that is such like sometimes a complicated relationship, especially that Black folks have to the mirror. Like how you see yourself often like replicates the structural violence that you experience. So I feel like starting in that place was really impactful for me. So I was with you as soon as you started there. I was like, oh, this is gonna be good.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're definitely a storyteller. It reminds me a lot of the way that like my mom and my grandma tell stories to me about their life. You're part of this like oral storytelling tradition that when I was hearing you, I had to close my eyes because I kept seeing my family telling me stories as a child, and the ways in which you're able to take on a difficult subject and retell it with so much ferocity, and you tell it as if you're like winning in life and in the world. And hearing you say it was so beautiful, and I don't think I would have gotten the same impact if I would have only read it. Like, it really mattered that you read it out loud to us. So thank you for that.
No, thank you so much. I think when you're talking about right to reclaim, I think about vengeance because I've seen a lot of call outs and stuff, necessary call outs, mind you. And I think about how people are saying like survivors are so obsessed with vengeance. But at least for me, my relationship with vengeance is like I obsess over vengeance because I don't have justice. So I think the right I was really exploring was the right to justice. Like if you knew that you would be okay, that you would be restored, you wouldn't invest in so many other things. You would just focus on healing and reorienting with your body and like really just being with yourself and being okay.
Thank you for
And
sharing.
so that's kind of, yeah.
Wow, I think that hearing you right now, what your comment just did is like the opposite of justice is not injustice. For you, the opposite of justice is vengeance. And wow, thank you. Because I think that's an epistemology that does exist in the world, particularly like amongst indigenous communities, of like, okay, there's so much injustice, vengeance does make sense.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's kind of like, if justice is not there, then you must seize it. And then sometimes it spills out of control, but how can you really control something like that?
Yeah, it makes me think of the Caribbean and the Haitian Revolution. Thank you for sharing. Oh, God.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Ariana, anything else you want to say?
No, I kind of laughed for a moment, Alan, because you brought up the Haitian Revolution and Anaido as you were like speaking about justice and vengeance. That is the first thing that came to the very first thing that came to my mind was the Haitian Revolution. Like when justice is not being provided to you, how do you provide it for not just for yourself, right, but for everybody who has the same social condition as you as well? Yeah. Thank you so much for bringing that to us and getting us to think about it in this way. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank y'all for hosting this.
Absolutely. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Oof. Wow. I feel so inspired by the two readings. Like hearing you, Ariana, talk about where you're at right now, and also like seeing that what you're feeling is a communal feeling because a lot of people also shared it, and then to hear the last two readings, I want to say thank you to you, Ariana, for like showing up to this space, and share my gratitude. This is kind of, you thought about this workshop, and you asked me to co-facilitate with you, and this has been the highlight of my week every week. I know, like you and I have talked outside of this workshop, and I think I would also like to share publicly, like, yeah, I've been like coming in and out of depression, and I haven't been able to read at all in 2 months. This is the first thing I've been able to read from cover to cover, and witnessing you today saying, I'm here, it's hard and I'm still here, like, thank you for being here. That means the world. I think that for me is you showing up today. It's like such a beautiful gift and offering to me. So thank you. I just really love you. And I want to say that I see you and I hear you, and I'm grateful for your presence here. I don't know what you're going through, but I am really grateful for your presence here.
I love you too, Alan. Yeah. Yeah. And it also I feel like, I don't know, I feel grateful that like this is one of the sit down like video situations that I can be present for, that it's not like a work thing that I'm going into where I feel like I have to like suppress how I'm feeling, so I can like do a task. And I feel like it's one of the things that I appreciate about this workshop series, and also just like about writing in general, is that you can show up as you are, and yeah, it was helpful for me too to write into that space today of feeling with the prompt that you gave. So thank you for that as well.
Absolutely. Should we be continuing closer to the workshop?
Yeah, it doesn't look like there's anyone else who wants to share. So if you want to start closing up, you can do that.
Okay. So thank you everybody for joining us today. This is one of my favorite workshops. Usually the way that I would do this is I would split the room into like groups of 4, and pass around flashcards, and you would have like 2 minutes, and then you would get the flashcards from the next group, and it's like a super fast writing workshop. And then by the end of the day, you would have like a whole list. It's kind of like a manifesto of the rights that you're reclaiming for yourself. And I really hope that this workshop is not just a one-time thing for you. I hope that you're able to make your own list of rights. Like, even if you're not writing, just think of everything that you want, and put it in paper and treat it like a prayer of some sorts, right? Like, you have the right to all of these things, especially in moments like these where, I don't know, sometimes I feel like I'm hallucinating because I haven't been outside in 4 or 5 days. So please take this workshop and make it part of your everyday routine if you're able to. Like we said, you can scoop Danjeli's chapbook once it's available again. I know that she's working on getting a new batch printed, so just follow her for now. And if you want to share some of what you wrote with us, send it to us on Instagram. But here's what I'm going to say. Send it to us on Instagram, but send it to us formatted already how you want us to upload it. Because what's been a little bit difficult, it's that we have to format it because you sent us the text. And we don't know where your line breaks are. We don't know if there's indents. So just send it to us as a photo, like maybe do it on Google Doc or on a Word doc or on your phone and screen cap it and then send it to us. We will be uploading the poems that have been sent because some of you have sent us poems we haven't uploaded yet. And that's because we have to get back to you on how you want it formatted. So send us a poem and we will upload it onto Instagram. And, we have 2 more sessions left and then our 2-month series is over. So thank you so much.
And next Sunday, we'll be doing, like I said earlier, Guided Free Writes #2. Very, very low stakes writing workshop. You can write about whatever topic you want, but we will be doing some guided free writing together and then a little bit of sharing together in a very no pressure, low stakes environment. So if that sounds good to you, come back next Sunday. And in the meantime, we're still working on captioning some of our earlier videos, but we'll let y'all know when those captions are available. But yeah, in the meantime, stay in touch with us on Instagram. It's the only place you can find us at Write With Us Live. And we'll see you next Sunday. Thanks for your time.
Thank y'all.